always be patient. Okay, thank you, Professor, for your additional sharing, and which clarify about the how to create and developing the constitutional framework. And I would like to thank you also to Dr. Yusuf Hidayat that has been present to us about some several key points that I have not about the categories of law in Islam and then the pattern of the relationship between the state and Sharia, and as well that the comment from Dr. Yusuf that what Professor Quraisy has been presented is very logical about the goodness for the community and is considered to according with Sharia. So we move on to the next session, which is a Q&A session. I believe this will be more warmer than usual. And so I notice in here there are about 60 to 70 audiences. Please be patient. Okay, I will give the opportunity. Ada 60-70 orang di sini, and then if I try to see in the online 45, I don't know whether it is double present in online offline or perhaps single present in online Okay. Nevertheless, let me facilitate this interactive Q&A session. The first term I will give opportunity who present offline in this room, the first 3 participants, and the second term I will give opportunity who as in the online Zooms. Please be patient, Mr. Indra Utama in online, and the last terms I will move if we still have time. We are going to go to proceed to the third term. So still have 45 minutes, Professor and also Doctor. And the first one I would like to invite from this room 3 first participants. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, more than 3. Okay, all right. I will accommodate all. Okay, the first one I will give a chance to. Okay, from the front side. Please mention your name and organization and to who your question is intended. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much. My name is
Boleh
Ayu.
pakai bahasa Indonesia juga.
Okay. Thank you so much. My name is Ayu from Indonesia Jentera School of Law, and it's really interesting to listen to your presentation because it's really comprehensive and even easy to understand. Even for me, because I have I'm still unfamiliar with Islamic government and constitutionalism, so it's really interesting, and I can wait to for the book to be published. And I'm gonna ask 2 questions. First to the Professor Asifa. I see that the core principle in it is respect, and I think that because I haven't read the book, so I think it's really important to also elaborate and dig in more. How can we ensure and guarantee the respect aspect? Because even in Indonesia, even though of course the majority of Muslim people in Indonesia have like the as Dr. Yusuf said that we have like similar understanding or interpretation, but then even with this maybe not too diverse community, we still have disagreements, and yeah, it can break and divide people. So I think it's really important for you in your book to elaborate more about that, because I think that's like the core principle to make these 3 pillars doable. Even though these are great, and I think it's relevant to the current situation where many Islamic Muslims they don't even understand that it's okay to have like diverse interpretation or perspective on their beliefs. And even more, I think it's really important to when you mentioning about the reward system, I think more people needs to understand about that concept, because we think that no, we are right and you are wrong, totally wrong, and you might go to hell. So And my question is, you mentioned about the when you differentiate between these two, there's state law, and then there's the makasid. Um, what I'm thinking is, because in Indonesia not all are Muslims, so we have, maybe is it possible like the opt out of the law state is not only in terms of Islamic understandings, but also maybe in terms of religions and even culture. And my second question to Dr. Yusuf is, when Professor Asifa mentioned about makasid, yeah. So is it, do you think that we already have that, because we have Majelis Ulama Indonesia or Indonesian Ulama Council? Do you think like we already have the modality or even the agency to apply the concept of that Professor Asifa proposed? But once again, it's really interesting, and I'm so happy to be here. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next participant. Okay, okay, Prof. Please mention your name and organization.
Check. All right. Thank you. My name is Ramdan. I'm from book community. Ramdan. Okay. Okay. Thank you for Dr. Quraisy. Your presentation is really interesting, and I look forward for your book. Okay. And yeah, maybe your books will answer my confusing, because started 7 October. Many people or my friends asked me to, because they see what's happening in Gaza, and many of my friends asked me to join his community to study about Khilafah. And I know it's wrong, because I study by Europe, the dark age when religion used by government. And my question is, because you mentioned about the fiqh and the shiasa, what's the meeting point where we put the fiqh in the democracy system? What's the meeting point, and is there any border for in democracy system? Border, yes, border. And the second question is, you said that fiqh is not really really used in democracy system, and really needed, not really needed in democracy system in the future. So it means it's like secularism or something else, because I understand that something that I catch from your presentation, that we have to put the fiqh and the other side, means the fiqh is for personal thing. Okay. And the third question, saya tunjukkan ke, well, yes. Sebenarnya Pak, di Indonesia ada pemikiran yang memang seperti itu, seperti Bapak tadi, ada Gus Dur, ada Nurholis Majid, tapi ketika itu dikemukakan dikemukakan, maka orang bilang ini sekuler dan jangan diikuti. Bagaimana pandangan Bapak? Thank you.
Third participant, Mbak Nisa.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Arab sadri bayasiri amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Okay. Thank you. My name is Dr. Aris Mahmud. From the I am a lecturer in Al-Azhar University. I want to ask you about the about each country have a different legal system. So like in America, in Indonesia, but the community, Muslim community in Indonesia and in America, so many. how to the America country to respond the temporary not contemporary like the like issue the which I mean I can say in Indonesia. Okay, thank you. Lebih jelasnya begini, jadi pada dasarnya setiap negara itu memiliki sistem hukum yang berbeda. Begitu pula keadaan di Amerika dalam hal istilahnya kaitan antara religion and country, hubungan antara negara dan agama tersebut. Amerika termasuk negara sekuler, secularly country. Berkaitan dengan kasus-kasus kontroversi dalam hal ini adalah yang berkaitan dengan hal-hal yang berkaitan dengan praktek-praktek keislaman yang dalam hal ini menjadi fenomena negara juga. Salah satunya adalah pernikahan dini yang memang di negara-negara seperti Indonesia dan Nigeria itu adalah sebagai salah satu negara penyumbang pernikahan dini terbesar di dunia. Nah, pada dasarnya pernikahan dini tersebut adalah adanya border atau keterbatasan dari regulasi dalam pengaturan tersebut. Nah, bagaimana Amerika dalam hal ini dalam mensikapi bahwa fenomena the serial marriage is a crucial thing, a crucial issue. If we related to MDGs Millennium Development Goal is to decrease the atau menurunkan tingkat dari pernikahan dini tersebut yang akan berdampak kepada hilangnya potensi-potensi dari generasi muda tersebut. Nah, bagaimana sistem hukum di Amerika tersebut untuk mensikapi tersebut, walaupun memang bukan negara Muslim, tapi pada dasarnya penduduk Muslim di Amerika pun begitu banyak dan bagaimana mensikapinya. Demikian, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
My question is quite simple. I would like to know your opinion on how diverse should we limit on how diverse will it be when we consider the terms of diversity in your opinion. How diverse, how far is the diversity that we should consider? Because, for example, you mentioned about a lot of fiqh, Hanafi and so forth, but then we understand that we have Shia, Sunni, and then in Indonesia we have also Ahmadiyah, right? And some might not think Ahmadiyah as part of the Muslim community, but in your understanding, should we filter it out only to filter the diversity of the freedom, or we just make it freely, acknowledging that it might contradict each other harshly, not just minimum, but harshly. Foundation principle.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Disa. The last participant, perhaps Shakira. Before we move on.
Halo, selamat pagi semuanya. Perkenalkan, saya Syakira Rimadita. Saya adalah mahasiswi dari Sekolah Tinggi Hukum Indonesia Jentera, yang mana dalam kesempatan kali ini saya ingin menanggapi pilar pertama yang disampaikan oleh Profesor Asifa, yaitu state law must be based on the public good, dan yang ingin saya soroti mengunderline public good itu sendiri, karena public good ini yang menurut saya itu tidak secara eksplisit menjelaskan bahwa public good yang seperti apa, karena karena terutama di negara kita yang banyak ini yang sangat luas ini, otomatis public good itu public good itu sangat beragam gitu Bang opsinya. Sehingga public good ini akan kemudian melahirkan permasalahan juga gitu. Dan opsi pertama ini yang saya rasa tidak sekaligus menyelesaikan masalah gitu, dan ini yang ingin saya kritisi gitu, public good yang seperti apa, karena apakah public good yang dimaksud adalah public good atas mayoritas suara gitu, yang dimana didominasi oleh misalnya penduduk Islam, atau enggak suara yang dianggap benar oleh moral mayoritas warga Indonesia itu sendiri. Kemudian saya ingin merujuk pada satu contoh, yaitu terhadap SEMA nomor 2 tahun 2023 tentang anjuran para hakim untuk mengabulkan permohonan pernikahan beda agama. Dan ini menjadi isu yang krusial karena pernikahan beda agama itu bisa mendapatkan penafsiran yang berbeda-beda dari mazhab agama itu sendiri. Ada mazhab agama dalam Islam khususnya yang menyatakan bahwa pernikahan beda agama itu boleh-boleh saja, asalkan misalnya yang pria yang beragama Islam dan yang perempuan itu beragama non-muslim, sehingga doktrin seperti ini yang kemudian dijadikan solusi namun menimbulkan permasalahan juga. Namun bisa dinyatakan SEMA ini lahir akibat dari suara mayoritas yang bisa dikatakan sebagai public good, sehingga kemudian apabila pilar kedua yang dinyatakan oleh Profesor Asifa bahwa individu sebetulnya bisa memilih mana pemikiran atau aliran yang dianggap benar gitu oleh dirinya. Namun hal ini juga menjadi masalah karena akibat dari SEMA ini, ketika seorang manusia memutuskan yang berbeda daripada pandangan mayoritas, ini menimbulkan individu tersebut tidak bisa diterima oleh mayoritas itu sendiri. Ini terjadi karena akibat dari penolakan permohonan pernikahan beda agama ini berdampak pada ia tidak bisa mendaftarkan pernikahannya di Dukcapil, sehingga hal ini kan menggerus daripada hak warga negara yang akhirnya masuk pada siasah itu sendiri atau hukum tata negara. Dan dampak dari penafsiran yang seperti ini sebetulnya menurut saya akan berdampak serius gitu, terutama terhadap hak asasi manusia itu sendiri. Kemudian sebagaimana yang disampaikan oleh Fleming, sebetulnya pilar-pilar ini saya sepakat juga karena dibenarkan dalam aliran pemikiran hukum yaitu critical legal study. Namun pemikiran critical legal study ini kemudian juga dibantah oleh Mary Fleming karena pada akhirnya suara minoritas ketika ia menyatakan bahwa ingin keluar daripada apa yang dianggap benar oleh moral mayoritas, dia kemudian tetap saja tidak akan bisa membuat suaranya terdengar, kurang lebih seperti itu. Sehingga saya sedikit juga membenarkan pandangan dari Carol Smart yang menyatakan bahwa apakah sebaiknya doktrin ini hanya seharusnya dianggap sebagai pengetahuan saja, bukan sebagai penyelesaian solusi. Dan yang ingin saya tanyakan kepada baik Profesor Asifa ataupun Pak Yusuf Hidayat, mohon maaf, atau Pak Yusuf Hidayat, ini bagaimana menanggapi pemikiran dari Carol Smart itu sendiri yang menyatakan bahwa sebaiknya doktrin-doktrin seperti ini hanya dianggap sebagai sebatas ilmu pengetahuan saja, terlebih dari tadi Pak Yusuf Hidayat juga menekankan bahwasanya negara ini betul dinyatakan oleh Founding Father bukan sebagai negara berbasis agama, kurang lebih seperti itu. Terima kasih.
In any way that there's a question that has been unanswered, I will perhaps provide you and also Pak Yusuf. So want to be first? Okay, Pak Yusuf.
Saya mau komentari yang perlu saya komentari aja ya. Jadi yang terkait dengan pertanyaan-pertanyaan tadi ke saya. Tadi Ayu ya. She asked about Majlis Ulama and also is Maqasid Syariah implemented in Indonesia or not. I think Maqasid Syariah is, if we see here, reviewed the state act, for example, the state constitution. Yeah. If we know about concept of Maqasid Syariah, memang ini ada banyak perbedaan pandangan ya tentang Maqasid Syariah. Kalau beliau itu kan, kalau saya pahami ya merevisi kebijakan negara ya, to revisit, to review the state law, for example. Kalau kita dalami contohnya, if we deeply think about Majelis Ulama statement ya, atau Majelis Ulama School of Law, aliran hukumnya gitu kan, itu memang lebih kepada penyelesaian masalah, ya. Jadi ada perbedaan mendasar metodologi dalam mengeluarkan fatwa Majelis Ulama, baik terkait ekonomi ataupun terkait dengan pandangan-pandangan tadi kan, pandangan-pandangan keagamaan yang lain, baik itu zakat atau persoalan daging babi macam-macam, terus mengenai dengan virus macam-macam ya. Jadi ada konsepnya, as Dr. Asifa said about sadud dariyah, for example ya. This is some method, sadud dariyah is some method. Itu metodenya digunakan itu adalah bagaimana menghindari kerusakan-kerusakan. Ini bagian demokrasi syariah sebenarnya. Contohnya apa? Dalam aspek makanan contohnya, ya. Itu metodenya adalah metode sadud dariyah tadi, menghindari kerusakan. Jadi kalau itu selama itu tidak ada kerusakan, nah, itu akan dibolehkan kan gitu. Tapi kalau itu menghadirkan pada kerusakan, itu dibolehkan. Itu metode yang dominan ya. Yang dominan yang digunakan. This is the dominant method that used in Majelis Ulama Indonesia ya. Tetapi kalau di dalam masalah ekonomi contohnya, metode yang digunakan adalah solusi terhadap persoalan. Jadi bukan hanya halal haram saja sebenarnya. Tapi bagaimana keluar dari persoalan. Karena apa? Tingkat perkembangan ekonomi kan tinggi gitu kan. Nah, sehingga yang diselesaikan ini gimana nih menyelesaikannya gitu loh. Jadi nggak pada proses, bahkan itu keluar kepada madhab-madhab klasik dulu. Jadi fikih-fikih klasik itu kadang-kadang argumen-argumen yang lemah pada masa dulu sekarang itu digunakan walaupun itu lemah. Contoh, emas dulu itu jadi alat tukar. Ya. Sehingga itu bukan komoditas contohnya kan gitu kan ya, maka nggak boleh itu kalau seandainya di online tuh kemudian tuh menjual belikan itu kan, karena dia alat tukar kan gitu. Nah sekarang dibolehkan karena apa, emas bagian dari komoditas, maka ada Tokopedia macam-macam. Jadi memang kalau saya lihat memang ini paling moderat. Mungkin kawan-kawan kenal Salafi tentang atau yang lain ya, dia punya madhab sendiri ya, punya madhab sendiri, tapi itu tidak dominan ya. Tapi kalau di MUI biasanya ada Muhammadiyah, ada NU, ada Persis macam-macam, itu sampai 50 ormas, dan this organization is very moderate, dan itu lebih kepada solusi, dan ini berbasis pada konsep maqasid syariah ya. Juga mensikapi contohnya COVID kemarin, itu luar biasa gitu kan, itu tidak mudah itu. Nah, contohnya tentang Palestina kemarin ya, itu bagaimana nih penyelesaiannya. Makanya kan tidak melis tuh daftarnya nama perusahaannya, tetapi punya prinsip how to solve this problem kan, bagaimana menyelesaikan pasal ini. Jadi kalau ditanya, memang sebaiknya teman-teman kalau ada pendapat yang sifatnya umum, lihat dulu fatwa MUI. Itu lebih selamat lah kalau menurut saya ya. Rekomendasi saya ya, rekomendasi saya, baik dalam aspek keagamaan, aspek ekonomi ataupun politik kan gitu. Karena walaupun memang terjadi perbedaan di dalam juga, tetapi ketika itu sudah satu suara, sudah kita gunakan kan gitu. Jadi itu ya, terkait dengan pertanyaan Ayu tadi. Terus kemudian yang terakhir tadi terkait dengan masalah ya ini memang dilematis ya. Ini saya kira Indonesia memang perlu kepastian hukum ya, pertanyaan gitu kan, dan juga memang perlu mengapresiasi perbedaan pendapat gitu kan. Tapi kalau ketika itu kepastian hukum itu terkorbankan ya, sehingga masyarakat menjadi bimbang kan gitu kan. Tapi saya kira interpretasi nih ya, interpretasi terkait dengan masalah sama mungkin nanti terkait dengan pernikahan beda agama ya. Ini saya kira ini sangat populer sekali sebenarnya kan. Karena di dalam Al-Quran sendiri boleh menikah antara orang muslim pria dengan orang muslim perempuan kan gitu kan ya. Cuma persoalannya memang konteksnya berbeda-beda antara satu dengan yang lain ya. Terus kemudian ketika itu ke pengadilan, itu menimbulkan berbagai persoalan kan gitu kan. Nah jadi memang kalau dikatakan tadi itu sebagai sebuah, ini saya belum bisa melihat apakah bagaimana implementasinya. Ya, implementasinya memang ya itu perlu ini ya, perlu memang diskusi yang lebih dalam terkait tentang itu. Tetapi mungkin hakim ya, nggak tahu nih, hakim perlu kesamaan persepsi mungkin tentang kasus tersebut kan gitu kan. Ya, walaupun mungkin masih juga ada yang punya perbedaan pendapat tentang hal itu. Saya kira wajar saja ya. Kalau ada yang berpandangan bahwa ya itu dibolehkan saja, memang interpretasi dia ya sama kayak berjilbaban. Kalau Shihab kan berpandangan memang tidak wajib kata dia kan gitu kan. Tapi yang lain berpandangan itu wajib kan. Nah, cuman ketika itu bicara hukum negara, kalau itu kan privat ya, masalahnya kalau jilbab itu sangat privat sekali sehingga itu kan tidak ada hukum negara. Kayak sama zakat tuh. Zakat itu di Indonesia belum bisa diwajibkan muzaki itu kan. Karena tidak bisa intervensi. Ini kan kelemahan kita, negara yang memang saya katakan ini bukan berbasis bukan agama sekuler dan religius, tetapi menghubungkan antara keduanya. Tetapi hal-hal yang sifatnya ubudiyah itu negara nggak bisa ikut campur. Maka ketika zakat nggak bisa menghukum muzaki itu, yang bisa dihukum adalah lembaga zakatnya saja. Saya kira mungkin itu. Yes. Of course, Indonesia, if we use Maqasid Sharia as reviewed the Constitution or also the Act of Indonesia, I think Maqasid Sharia is implemented in Indonesia. For example, about human right and also about, for example, public good. But this is many interpretation about a public good. I think it is.
Doctor, please, Professor.
There it is. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Maqasid does play a role here very much, but it's not in the role that in my proposal. So I would change the role that Maqasid plays if Indonesia were to follow my model. Like I said, it wouldn't be part of the lawmaking process or the thinking through the lawmaking process. I do think that the role of Majlis Ulama being a separate entity than the state is actually very much within the realm of what I was talking about, where the fiqh and siyasa are separate entities, they're private scholars, the state isn't controlling their ijtihad thinking. I think that's very good. I need to study more about exactly how it works, but it feels to me like it's more unitary and not diverse, and that would be different from the classical model and the way I would like to see diverse interpretations in the realm of fiqh, not one singular answer coming as a fatwa to the government from MUE. I would like to see more diversity. And the state, that doesn't mean certainty doesn't have to be for banking or something like that, because in my model, the state still can make one law. If it's important for the state to have a singular banking regulation or something, they still can and should do that. But in my model, it would not be based on a fatwa. It would be based on just studying what is in the public good. So this gets to some of the questions that you guys asked. I'll try to organize them here a little bit. One thing, I really don't like to use the word secular and religious, because in my opinion, that brings a lot of baggage of European meanings of what secular and religious is. So I think it was you who asked the question, is fiqh more personal, not the other topics? That is also a leftover from colonial era. The way that colonial powers allowed for fiqh sharia to still exist in colonized countries was to narrow it down to what they call personal status issues. So they made it just personal topics. And that is a continuation today in many Muslim countries, where the only fiqh that's applied by the courts is just on those personal issues. That's very common today, but it's a leftover of like, it was the part that the colonials are like, here, you can have this, and we're gonna control all the other stuff. We're gonna control the money, we're gonna control the military. So for fiqh itself covers all lots of things that are beyond personal. There's contract law, generally, there's property law, there's lots of criminal, there's lots of things that are not just personal status. So this gets to, what is the range of the fiqh diversity that I would imagine in a society following my model? And so several of you asked questions like that, like, how much fiqh diversity are we really talking about? Like, aren't there some crazy interpretations out there? Do we really want to let people opt out to some weird thing that's going to be, way out there? And this gets to the point of, can non-Muslims also opt into their religious law. So what if, God forbid, there was a law that allowed child sacrifice and killing of children as part of their religion? And so would we allow that just because the system allows for opt-out? Historically, yes, non-Muslims opted out to their own religious law, and that, like I said, I think that was a strength of Muslim societies, that we could rule over lands that were not majority Muslim with not a lot of hostility. Hindus in India lived under Mughal rule Muslims never became a majority in India, and yet they still ruled quite nicely over large populations of diverse. So that happens because non-Muslim law also was an opt-out, which brings the question, how far do we take this? Do we really let, some religion that allows child sacrifice? That gets back to the role of siyasa, or the state law that I was talking about. So the state still has the authority to choose not to enforce certain things why? They don't serve the public good. So if we think it is bad for society to kill children, then we would say it's not in the public good for the state to enforce those fiqh opt-outs. So you can believe you want to do that, but the state is not going to help you do that. Not because we disagree with your religion, lakum dinakum waliya din. But as a state matter serving the public good, we're not going to do that, right? So it always comes back to what is in the public good as to how far fiqh diversity will be allowed. And so this gets to the question of interracial marriage or child marriage or all kinds of other things. What about restricting Ahmadiyya practices in the country? These are all not questions of what does Islam say on these things. The question to ask is, what is in the public good on this topic? I'll give you a different example. In the United States, we have a big controversy about abortion right now. There is a diversity of fiqh opinion on whether or not and when you could have an abortion. It turns out that the schools disagree over when it is after the soul is breathed into the fetus. So the majority opinion is 120 days after conception. There's also 80 days, 40 days, and 0 days. So as a Muslim, I can choose which one I follow, okay? The state shouldn't be making that choice for me. The state should be making a decision based on if abortions cause harm in society, not because they chose which school to follow, but cause harm in society. In fact, there is evidence in the United States that bans on abortion actually cause more harm than allowing abortions, but providing prenatal care, health care, child care, better financial support. So many women are, dangerously undergoing abortions because it's banned, which actually is causing more harm and more death, maternal mortality and fetal mortality with a ban. That's not to say whether or not I would have an abortion if I was a Muslim, if I got pregnant. The question is not a one-to, so let me say it this way. The relationship between fiqh and siyasa is not a one-to-one correlation of if something is prohibited by fiqh, therefore the state should also prohibit it. That is not the case. So just think about it for a second. If it is wajib to pray 5 times a day. Yeah, okay, it's wajib to pray 5 times. That's the fiqh says that universally across all the schools. Does that mean that the state should be punishing people who do not pray 5 times a day? It's not exactly the same role. The state should be making laws that serve the public good. If it serves the public good to punish people who are not praying 5 times, fine. But I think you might make an argument that's actually not a good idea. Right? It might actually cause people to resent the state, not want to be Muslim anymore. It might actually cause more harm. So you have to always ask the question, not what does Islam say I do? The question is, what should the state do that serves everybody here? And that goes to interreligious marriage, abortion, child marriage, all of these questions. It's not a question of what does the fiqh say. The fiqh is asking you as an individual, what should you do? The siyasa always has to ask the bigger question. So we had in the United States for a while a prohibition on alcohol. It was in the Constitution. It was banned, believe it or not. In the United States, there was a time where alcohol was banned. Did it, in the early 1900s. Did it stop people from drinking? No, they just snuck it under the table and they still drank. So if the goal is really to stop people drinking, what is the best way to do that? A ban probably isn't the best way to do that. Maybe something else, maybe making it difficult to buy, very expensive, maybe something else. If you really want to stop people from having abortions, maybe a ban isn't the best way to do it. Maybe better childcare, etc. Okay, so that's the question of how much fiqh diversity is allowed always goes back to the same question in my model: is what is the role of the state law, and that is serving the public good. And I think different societies will answer that question differently. So it may be that interreligious marriage, it is better to ban it in some places and not in others. That is not the same question as whether your mufti would tell you you can get married or not. That's a different question. The question of what the state should do has nothing to do with what you as an individual should do. It has to do with what is the state going to use the state power of punishment and fines and putting people in prison. What are the things we want the state to do that? How much energy do we want the state to be spending on that as opposed to other things that might be better for the state to do? That is a very different question than, should you marry this person? No, you go to your mufti. That's the answer to that. Okay. How do we decide the public good? How much can it solve the problems? And I wish I could have heard all of your question because it sounded fascinating and I couldn't understand most of it. And I got very short translations. So now I have to learn Bahasa because it's all very interesting. But I think in general, just to be brief, Maslaha Amma is not utilitarianism. It's not economic numbers. It's not a cold calculation. It does include the idea of morality. It does include the idea of good, building a good moral society, good people, that kind of thing. So the kinds of things that you would decide that are in the public good, I think is accessible to a lot of people. But it doesn't necessarily mean it will solve all the problems. But that's not a new problem for my model. That's a problem for any democratic system. Can the state solve everybody's problems of making state laws? No. The way that you build good societies is, again, a combination of the non-state role of your religious communities, your manners, your cultural norms, the way people just be with each other in a society, in addition to the state enforcing law. That's how you build a society. The state cannot control every single behavior of every single person. A lot of that is just manners, just culture, what your parents taught you. They have to work together. We can't expect the state to do everything. So again, focus on the things that is important for the state to spend that energy of the financial power and the military power that the state has on the things that are the best suited for the state to do. Building roads, making sure that cars are safe and the buildings are safe and we're not building nuclear weapons and we are maybe joining the UN to try to stop the United States from vetoing every Security Council resolution to help the Palestinians. Like, these are things states can do, right? These are important uses of state power. And then you work together to make a combination of it for the society to function. Indra has a question. Can we fit her in? Yes? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Prof. and Doctor. So we move on to the second terms. There's Indra Utamanasution and as well Anissa. So I would like to provide a first opportunity to Indra Utamanasution. Please be concise and please mention your organization. Thank you.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. I hope you can hear me clearly. Okay, thank you. So my name is Indra and I'm a student of Universitas Al-Azhar. First of all, I would like to say thank you and much appreciation for your sharing your thought. It was so good to learn from me, for myself. And second thing, I think I have two questions. Not for being discriminative, but I'm not going to ask or direct question for Pak Yusuf because he's my teacher, so I can ask him in his class. So my question will goes to Professor Sifa. My first question is regarding the pillars, and I learned also that you mentioned many things about democracy and how Islam implemented here in Indonesia. And I think we all agree that Indonesia is a set of example where democracy and Islam can live together. So my question is whether will you consider to add democracy as one of the pillar for what you so-called constitutionalism? That's the first question. The second question is about we are living today in the world where about branding, where labeling is it's a significant issue. And unfortunately, there is the huge and a massive campaign of Islamophobic campaign and bad labeling for everything about Islam and about Muslim. So by having said that, I think what is your opinion about if we pursue something that we called about something like Sharia law or something about Islamic law and the implementation and everything with that with those label, which one is more important? Because we will we will have so many pushback when we're saying that in public, instead of like I'm quoting Professor Yusuf that in Indonesia we are practically have implemented many of fundamentals principle of Islam in our constitution and also in many laws here in Indonesia. So I think what was your best advice for whether we campaigning about this Islamic or Sharia law, or we can put aside the label and advocate about the implementation in the constitution or the any regulating law here in Indonesia or in other Muslim population country. Thank you.
Thank you, Indra. I will move on to Anissa. Please, Anissa. It's still mute, Anissa. Please open your mic. Okay.
Yeah, I cannot unmute myself because the host do not allow it. So I was waiting for the host. Okay, can you hear my voice now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to ask the distinguished presenters, as I am coming from Universitas Sumatera Utara, Faculty of Law. I am actually a lecturer and happen to be as well a doctoral student. So yeah, as you may can predict, I would very like to use this opportunity to talk and gain insight from both presenters about my dissertation paper, because I am planning to write about legal transplant between Indonesia and Islamic law, specifically in using of phonology and qiyas, because I started this research many years ago. I started in my undergraduate student scriptsy. Yeah, I was comparing the principle of legality between Islamic and Indonesian, and then I just found out that the main significant difference thing is the utilization of phonology. Like in Indonesia, we prohibited it, but we prohibit the utilization of phonology for the sake of legal certainty, because the old story between Indonesia, Netherlands, France, and then Rome, and then canonic law perhaps as well, and then in Islamic law, turns out analogy is somehow stands as a source of Islamic law. It plays a significant, a core role in reg finding. Okay, and then I continue the research in my graduate paper, S2, my thesis. It's comparing more specific about the analogy, and I found out that analogy, qiyas perhaps, as well become a solution that have a significant potential to adopt in Indonesia, because it is so adaptive and responsible and fast to be applied in Indonesian criminal justice system. Like, I know that ijtihad and qiyas and another interpretative method is currently applies in MUI, Majelis Ulama Indonesia, but we also happen to know that MUI somehow cannot force the fatwa, the decision towards whole Indonesian society, because MUI has a limited jurisdiction, and it only for niche society, Islamic person only, and even when it specifically for Islamic society, there is somehow a chance that Islamic society itself neglect the fatwa that MUI has provided. So I would very like to know your insights about the potential of doing the legal transplant on analogy in Indonesia, and perhaps the challenges, because when we come back to Makosid, I don't know, I am coming late. I just finished another urgent test, so I am sorry if it's not relevant, or if I take the Makosid Sharia as the wrong understanding. But I mean, the limited understanding that I know is the purpose of Islamic law is to protect humanity, like menjadikan manusia sebagai manusia, gitu, memanusiakan manusia, protecting their belonging, protecting their self, protecting their I don't know, I forget. I only remember there's 5 things that Islamic law wants to protect. The purpose that Islamic law want to be gained. And to compare it with the new criminal law purpose in this modern era is actually to protect society from the criminal act itself. So it's also already bergeser, already shifting, not be criminal law not only supposed to protect individual from the abuse of power from the governance, but nowadays it's more commonly to protect the society from the criminal activities, because the development of technology and etc. So perhaps that's it. I actually only want to hear any discussion, and perhaps I can put it your insight or your answer to my dissertation as to reach to make my dissertation paper later become more interesting to others. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Anissa. So, who would like to proceed first? Prof. Asifa? We still have 10 minutes to answer, and then we proceed to finish.
Okay. It's a long time for you to sit. Thank you all very much. That's a long time. How long are your classes? Are they this long? Are you used to this long? Wow. Okay. It's a long time to sit. Thank you. I appreciate that. Happy to advise on your PhD thesis. I'm very interested in what you're working on, Anissa, so we can share my contact information, and I'm happy for you to send it to me, or if you'd like to read some parts of my book, if you'd like to look some, I'm happy to do that. Lots of different questions here. Why isn't democracy one of my pillars? Because my pillars are drawn from historical established Islamic principles. That's it. I want my proposal to be unassailable by somebody who says, you're making this up, right? I'm not making this up. I'm looking at history and I'm pulling out the ideas that I see in history. For better or for worse, democracy historically was not how Muslim societies made their laws. I think there's an easy way to bring it in that is very consistent, because the general principle is serving the public good. So there's lots of ways to figure out the public good. You could leave it to the king and just hope you have a good, nice king, and great, but maybe you have a bad king, and maybe the rest of us don't like that risk, and so we want democracy. So that's why democracy worked well with my proposal, but it's not necessary. But what's necessary is the idea of serving the public good as the basis for state lawmaking. And I'm not making that up. That comes from history. And so I don't want to have to defend, that I came up with some new idea. That part is historical. Anyway. And I mean, to connected to that is with all due respect to Indra, I don't think this is all just labels. I do think this is very structural change that I'm talking about. I'm not just trying to rename things or reconsider things. And I really am thinking about, we need to change the way we understand authority and power and law in our societies. And like I said in the beginning, I think that we are very much influenced. I'm coming from the West myself. I mean, we're very much influenced by thinking about things in a European nation state idea that I actually think is dangerous. And it is losing some very, very important things of our own Islamic history that I think we shouldn't lose. And that goes to your point that I forgot to answer you, I forgot your name in the beginning, about respect. I actually think that if we were to recapture some of what I'm talking about from our history, it teaches us how to do respect to our differences better than what we are doing today. The European nation state model is built on an idea that all the law is the same. Nation state is, the idea is, look, think about a nation in the sense of not government, but nation like a community of people who are mostly ethnically the same, linguistically the same, religiously the same, they speak the same language. That's what the classical meaning of nation is. So a nation state is a state that makes laws for that very homogeneous population. So the laws are all the same for everybody. That is not Muslim societies from the beginning. We had Jewish communities living in Medina. Like, this is not our history. So we don't presume everyone is the same from the beginning. And in fact, the way our ijtihad works is it builds in that diversity into the constitutional structure. So if we were to recapture this, I think we would remember and revive some of the tools of having respect across our differences. And another thing that I notice is the more educated you become in usul al-fiqh, in Sharia, the more respectful you are to other people's differences. Where I see the intolerance is where people are not educated about Islam. The more you get educated, the more you realize how respectful the highest scholars, Abu Hanifa, Malik himself, Shafi himself, they were so respectful to each other across these differences. So the problem is in the lack of education. The problem is not in Islam. The problem is the lack of education about our own history. So that goes to so I don't think it's a label. I actually think it's structurally changing the way we think about this stuff. Yeah, I mean, so Anisa's project is interesting. I'd love to know more. She's interested in how analogy works. And I think this goes to, I need to learn more about how the system works here, because from what I can tell so far is that the Masjid al-Ulama uses lots of different tools, maybe some qiyas, maybe not, and they give fatwas, and then they're not enforced on everybody, but they're internalized by various entities of the government, but only applicable to Muslims. But like she said, you can't enforce it on everybody. So there's some good and some bad in that, in my opinion. I think it's good that you can't enforce a fatwa from one interpretation on everybody, because it goes to the diversity problem again. Like, I actually think people should be able to choose which one to follow that they want to follow. I do think it's useful to have scholarship advising the state in, making sure you're safe within the realm of what is shari'i. But the use of analogy and the fact that Anisa's saying it's a new idea that she wants to bring back the use of analogy, and it sounds like from what you were saying, Doctor, that the focus on maqasid in the lawmaking sort of realm here is that it seems like some of the particular tools of ijtihad that made the different fiqh schools are kind of like in the background, and there's more of an emphasis on more abstract value sort of analysis, which I think is great when you're thinking about reviewing state action. But when we come down to the particular fiqh rules, I actually think analogy does a lot of good at individual rulemaking for individual Muslims. It's not all that useful at the state level, but at individual fiqh level, I think it's very useful. So the fact that, Anisa, you're working on bringing it back and trying to encourage it, it's very interesting to me, because I was like, what do you mean bring it back? It's always been there. It's built into how fiqh operates. So I'm very interested in learning more about how Indonesia and other countries operate with some of the pieces of the puzzle that I'm talking about and not others. Because what I think is so interesting is that every society has evolved since independence in their own unique ways to wrestle with the problems of society. And so very often the classical fiqh rules don't work well for the needs of international demands, global human rights, and things like that. So everybody comes up with a new way to solve that problem. And I just think I have another way. And I would like to engage with all of the, thinking in these countries to propose a new approach to thinking about this that can be folded into your own evolution that is going to be very unique to your country. So I don't want to interrupt the adhan here. So I have other things. I'm happy to talk with you, Anissa, more about your project, especially the criminal law stuff. So thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Professor. So we have to wait for the azan first. Okay. Shall we continue? Yusuf, please.
Thank you, Dr. Asifa. It's very to answer the question. I think Dr. Asifa has a good concept about public good, but we must learn more from her. Untuk tadi ya pertanyaan tentang pemikiran Gus Dur dan Cak Nur ya, Ramdan ya, saya belum jawab tadi. Ini memang sebenarnya interpretasi ya, interpretasi terhadap pemikiran. Kadang-kadang begini, pemikiran Ibnu Taimiyah dulu itu bagi sang sekarang dianggap itu bagi sekarang kan karena wah ini terlalu saklek gitu kan. Tapi dalam hal-hal yang lain, dalam ekonomi dia liberal gitu loh. Lebih liberal gitu maksudnya, bukan liberalisme ya, tapi lebih fleksibel gitu kan. Jadi memang terkadang agak sulit gitu untuk mengatakan itu oh Gus Dur ini sekuler atau apa. Justru kayak pemikiran Dr. Asifa ingin terhindar dari konsep sekuler dan konsep religius tadi, ingin moderasi sebenarnya, memoderasi gitu loh. Jadi tidak keluar dari nilai agama, tetapi tidak mungkin saklek dulu, seformal dulu kan gitu. Dan itu saya kira hal yang biasa saja, wajar saja. Makanya dalam fikih itu harus respect tadi, ya. Nah, respect itu memang pada dasarnya gimana supaya kita lebih respect, ya kita harus berilmu. Nah, semakin tinggi ilmunya akan semakin respect kan. Kayak Imam Syafi'i itu sangat respect sekali dengan Imam Hambali, dengan Imam Maliki gitu kan. Nah, makanya kalau orang-orang berilmu memang relatif gampang aja melihat persoalan gitu loh. Nah, gitu. Jadi apa? Tidak terlalu kaku dalam melihat persoalan kan gitu. Ini ada yang khutbah Idul Adha cuman sekali, ada yang 2 kali ya. Kalau ilmu ya biasa saja kan gitu kan. Tapi bagi yang tidak ngerti mungkin akan menjadi masalah kan gitu. Jadi respect itu sangat tergantung pada pengetahuan. As Dr. Sipa said ya. Jadi orang yang ngerti usul fiqh, ngurusi filosofinya akan lebih mudah memahami persoalan kan gitu kan. Jadi kalau kita ribut karena apa? Karena yang pengetahuan kita terbatas gitu kan. Ya. Tapi semakin tinggi biasanya makanya gitu orang Muhammadiyah sama NU tokoh-tokoh utamanya nyantai-nyantai aja gitu kan. Tapi di bawah saling serang gitu. Ya. Jadi pernah katanya, wah di Madura nih, di satu tempat nih, di sini orangnya Islam semua. Kecuali 1 atau 2 orang. Apa agamanya? Muhammadiyah katanya. Itu di bawah itu. Ya, itu di bawah. Tapi bagi Din Samsudin sama Hasim Muzadi itu dua-duanya keluaran satu pesantren tuh. Makanya nyantai aja kata Hasim Muzadi. Din Samsudin tuh orang NU yang dititipin di Muhammadiyah katanya. Nah, gitu. Jadi memang seperti itu ya kalau mau respect ya. Jadi saya kira harus semakin tinggi kita memahami persoalan maka akan semakin enjoy gitu kan. Nah, tetapi saya melihat memang ini perlu kita dalami ya untuk pemikiran Dr. Asifa ini. Saya juga masih belajar ini ya. Kalau Dr. I must learn more what you think, what your proposal ya. Mungkin apa sih perbedaan mendasarnya nanti ya. Karena ini public good ini memang masalah al-ammah ya. Jadi gimana kita mendefinisikan masalah, how to defend masalah al-ammah ya. Jadi pemikiran Yusuf Qaradawi, pemikiran mungkin kalau klasik Al-Ghazali ya, ataupun Syatibi sampai pemikiran-pemikiran yang terbaru kontemporer ya, itu perlu kita dalami sehingga mungkin kalau bukunya nanti udah terbit mungkin kita akan diskusi lagi ya. Mudah-mudahan itu akan menjadi, kalau bisa kita undang yang lainnya gitu kan, ahli-ahli qasid syariah kan ya. Karena saya kira ini cukup menarik ya. Tidak hanya dari sini, mungkin dari Timur Tengah ataupun dari Inggris nanti kita undang semuanya. Saya kira itu, thank you very much Dr. Asifa ya. We wait you for next time ya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Doctor, for the answer. So the discussion proved to be engaging. I mean, it's very interesting what Professor Asifa and also Dr. Yusuf has been presented previously. But you know, the concern is about the time. So the time is limited all of us. Then betul, yes, sure. And I don't think I have to conclude anything since you know Prof. Asifa and also Dr. Yusuf has been explained to us about the Islamic Constitution itself. And special thank I would like to give a round of applause again to Professor Asifa and also Dr. Yusuf Hidayat. And once I would like to hand back the reins of the event to the MC. Okay, thank you for me as a moderator. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad Faiz Aziz as a moderator. We're going to the next agenda by awarding a plaque to Prof. Asifa Quraisy Landes, Professor at University of Wisconsin Law School, from Mr. Yusuf Hidayat SAGMH, Dean of Faculty of Law, University of Al-Azhar, Indonesia. And then this is souvenir from Jentera Law School. This is a souvenir from Jentera Law School to Faculty of Law, University of Al Azhar, Indonesia. And Al Azhar to Zentera. The participants, please give applause. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we finally come to the end of today's agenda. Let us close the seminar by reciting Hamdalah, Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin. Those are the agendas we have presented to you all this morning. We hope that useful events like this will be held again in the future. Thank you so much for your attention. See you on the next occasions. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ayo, makasih ya. Teman-teman juga, makasih ya, makasih ya. Lu kantor nggak? Gua mau ke Metropol. Mobil. Hah?